My question is, how do you see the progress of women's equality in Jordan today?
I see progress in a lot of areas. Of course, Jordan has a lot of good strategies when it comes to strengthening women's rights and women's participation. And I think it's a very important step that the new gender strategy has been adopted. There are also other ambitious targets, for example, in the Vision 2025. And Jordan also has a very good national action plan for women, peace and security. Of course, it takes a lot of efforts to implement all these plans. And it takes efforts on different levels. It takes political efforts by the political level, by civil society, and by the grassroots.
Now, in Norway, you've done so well in gender equality. Your government is almost 50-50. What lessons can we learn from Norway?
So the Norwegian history of gender equality is a long history, and it's a very important part of our development of a welfare state, which is very much based on participation and on inclusion. In the course of my lifetime, a lot of developments have taken place in Norway, and it's a lot thanks to the generation of my mother that started in the 60s and 70s to really fight for women's rights. And increasingly, they also saw that it's not only about women's rights and human rights, it's also about economic facts. Because it has really helped the Norwegian economy to include women in the labor market. Of course, in the 70s, we needed more people to take on jobs. We needed more work power, and women were encouraged to enter the workforce. But then, of course, they also started contributing to society, and today we have a lot of businesses that are run by women and have been established by women. So I think in the beginning, of course, it was very important to have what we call, specific action, not only legislation to strengthen women's participation, but also Norway used quotas in different circumstances, both when it came to, the political parties nominated or had quotas for women to strengthen the political participation of women. The participation of women in political life has increased a lot since the 50s and 60s, and we now have above 40% women in our parliament, among the highest in the world. And we also have had our first prime minister in 1981, Gro Harlem Brundtland, now we have several leaders of political parties who are women. And who play a very important role. So that is on the political side. And then when it comes to education, it was essential to ensure more higher education for women in order to strengthen women's participation. So we've had quotas to ensure that more women chose professions that were usually reserved for men. Like, for example, in Norway, when I was young, far less women than men chose engineering, for example. So there was a quota to encourage women to choose. Yes, to enter the study at the university in order to encourage more women to go that way.
You think quota helps, because in the last elections we've had no women outside the quota win. So is quota helpful or hurtful to women's equality?
I think it's an interesting discussion, and you have different experience in different countries and with different models. What we have seen is that in the transition phase, it can be useful to have quotas in order to break stigmas and to have groups that are not well enough represented enter a new area. But then, of course, in the longer term, it's a good thing if you have a natural development towards, and you don't need the quota the same way.
In Jordan, the ranking of women in gender index is very, very low. What can Jordanians do to improve their ranking in the gender index?
I think there are many things that can be done, and many steps that are being taken, but where you need a sustained effort. For example, when it comes to I think it's interesting to see here, we are supporting the implementation of the Jordanian National Action Plan for 1325. There you have a plan which is the result of an inclusive process. You have a budget, you have donors supporting partners, you have civil society actors involved, And you have sectors that are taking the lead, like the security sectors, which is a very interesting example. And then when it comes to the economy, I think it's extremely important, to have equal opportunities, and that women can also be allowed into the private sector, that you have more possibilities to work digitally. You need childcare, you need maternity leave, and you need public transportation. It's often discussed here, but in Norway we have seen how important childcare for everyone has been in allowing women to enter with full force. And I could also add the flexible working hours, because in Norway, gender equality is not only about women, it's very much about men. And working hours have been shortened, as gender equality increased. Working hours were shortened both for men and for women, so it allowed men more freedom to spend time with their family and to pursue other interests. And they could share the burden with their wife when it came to income generation. So flexible work hours have been very important in our case, and we even have a papa quota for a papa maternity leave.
How long?
15 weeks are reserved for the father.
And for the mother?
It changes quite often, so I forgot. It's almost a year with full pay. So yes, and what is important is that if the father doesn't take his 15 weeks, they will lose it. So there is a strong encouragement or incentive for the fathers to stay home. So it has been, of course, debated over years, but it has proved to change things fundamentally, because now all men, or most men of my generation, have stayed at home.
Huh?
Absolutely, and of course they have a lot of opportunities then to contribute, or to also shape the way children are being raised. So now, and we've seen with the COVID epidemic that, of course, the chores at home, the tasks at home, are quite equally distributed between men and women, which has made, first, if you have double income, you're less vulnerable. And also the conflicts perhaps at home are less when you have an equal distribution of tasks in the home. So I think that has been also a new experience for us to see. Of course, we also have a lot of challenges. We're not far from perfect, so still a lot of steps to take. But it has been interesting to see that even in.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador.
Welcome.